All right, let's get the Facebook groups in here. Mortified I'm going to miss it one of these times again. We are like 10 minutes in last time. Why aren't you guys on Facebook? Oh,
Oops.
it's the lack of coffee, I think, is doing it. But let's give it a second to breathe. Get a sip of coffee. Thanks, Patrick.
There's the notification that reminds me to mute my phone and that we are live. So
All right, good sign.
subscribe and hit those notifications. That way you'll know.
Well, welcome in, everybody. Yeah, so we have Scott's phone. Somebody freeze that, and we can see what he was on. But welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning. Merry Christmas time to everybody. Happy December 1st. It's Thursday morning, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, for these morning shows, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how you doing? Good morning to you. Happy last show of the week.
I am good. I'm afraid I'm going to start off some sort of, well, probably literally a holy war, but I don't think Christmas decorations should be up till after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
If you want to run them together, like the pumpkins coming out with Halloween and then kind of staying out for Thanksgiving, I get that.
Yeah.
But day after Thanksgiving then it's okay to do Christmas.
Yeah, I'm very much a don't yuck someone's yums, but don't tell me what to do. Also, so if you want to, have your Christmas decorations out, then God bless you. Don't tell me I need to get it out.
Yeah, and for me, it was like going into stores. I'm like, there's Christmas music. It's October.
Yeah, that's too much. Yeah.
Now
or the ads.
Going to stores.
Yeah, or if your Christmas lights are on still in July, come on, what are we doing here? But yeah, no, happy holiday season, everybody. I'm actually bummed. I've totally just looked down at the calendar. I'm like, oh yeah, December 1st. I don't have my Broncos Christmas sweater on. I need to get in the holiday spirit. I typically wear that for these shows. But maybe I'll grab it if my internet pukes out and then come back on. But knock on wood on that one. Let's say hello to some people in the chat. Kevin Gray coming in saying, morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Well, I learned that I let the hype get me from now on. I'll believe it when I see it, and I will always watch the Broncos. You sound like Scott and I. Scott and I like to say I really am in my heart. I'm born and raised in Iowa, but a lot of my family ties come from the state of Missouri, which is the show me state, and very much a seeing is believing. You want to believe it too, and even all this offseason, we're talking about the wins and losses and how this team is probably going to be better and getting Russell Wilson, but it's always the caveat, it's not real until it has happened, though. It's so many new variables. There's a chance that it goes completely off the rails. And we are completely off the rails this year, unfortunately. But seeing is believing. It's okay to have a little bit of hope, though. I think that's what did they say? Rebellions were built on hope. Yeah, it's okay to have a little hope.
No, we've gone through how I feel about the word hope and what it means to me. Shoot, half of my career, most of my professional career has been built on it, which is recruiting an NFL draft. So, that's all about the hope. We get it for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're going to find fewer people more cynical than me. It's just the way it is. And you hope for something better. I'm already looking forward to next year. This year, the hope is normally you hope that losing will help you next year. Now you're hoping you might as well win them out now. It's not going to change your draft position. But there are reasons this team could improve rapidly next year. It's for all the same reasons we thought this team could be better this year. A lot of those building blocks are still in place.
Yeah, 100%. Big caveat being if Russell Wilson is not a top 15 quarterback, then it's going to be pretty hard. But still, definitely room to improve. Nowhere to go but up, right? Hopefully. Ethan coming up saying, good afternoon, gents in Broncos country. Good to see you. We got Jeremy saying, morning, guys. Quick question. How does player percentage of the party factor into one's QBR? And that's Nick might have analytics for that. Yeah, it's players attended over expected is the advanced analytic there. No.
PAOE?
Yeah, PAOE. Yep, exactly.
PAOE. It sounds like peyote, which is what some of y'all in Arizona could dig up for us to finish this season.
It makes me think of one of my favorite movies, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm going to give you a Hawaiian name right now. PPOP. PPOP.
It made me think of Young Guns. You see the size of that chicken? But you may not have seen that movie. If you haven't seen Young Guns, you need to see Young Guns. They all got on peyote to figure out the spirit path. And
okay.
You see the size of that chicken?
Makes me think of the Doors biopic. But anyway, Dave Gossman coming in. Morning to you, Dave. Good to see you. Bama X saying, good morning, Broncos country. I wonder what interesting news we'll get today about our team. We'll find out. Let me see. We got Richard Miles coming in saying, good morning, guys. We appreciate you, Richard. Always love that bald eagle picture you got there. We have some bald eagles that live near me. I live pretty close to Lake Washington out in Seattle land. Used to live next to Green Lake, and we'd have snow swans. We'd have all these different types of ducks. We'd have osprey and, of course, bald eagles. So love the birds of prey. Pretty cool.
I do a decent Dirty Steve. I'm pretty good there, Scott. Dirty Steve. He ain't all there, is he? Is he? He ain't all there. Yeah, Young Guns is a fantastic movie. It really is.
When did it come out?
Probably 80s, okay. But it's a Western, so, none of it's dated. It's from 1800s with, and it was literally the Young Guns. Kiefer Sutherland, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen. Lots of Jack Palance was the bad guy. It was a phenomenal movie.
Yeah. Albert Knoppers, good morning, gentlemen in Broncos country. Toyin coming in across the pond saying, good morning, afternoon, Broncos country. Greg Smith with the food icons. I haven't eaten yet, Greg. That's rude. Now, top of the morning, good to see you. Clee coming in always with the quips saying, wow, you mean the Broncos have one player in the top 24? Yes, and they have one player in the top 10 that's under 24 years old. So excited to see that. We got Toyin saying, I'm already fed up with hearing Wham! Last Christmas. I really love Last Christmas. That's probably one of it's simple. I know it's repeated too much, but I do like that song. Mike Woodward coming in. Good morning. Ryan Slavic. Good morning, Nick Scott and Broncos country. We just need a new coaching staff again. New strength and conditioning. Spend money in free agency and draft, and we'll really bottom line. I think you're going to get a new strength and conditioning staff. I don't think it's. The thing is, something's wrong. We can all see that something's wrong with the Broncos' strength and conditioning. It's been a pattern too many years in a row. I'm not educated in kinesiology. I'm not there to know what the programs are exactly. You would hope that the Broncos, having the richest ownership group in the NFL currently, would invest heavily in the margins. So you are saddled the salary cap, but how can you find ways to improve? It's like how these college football teams, maybe that's not the best investment because they pay the players too, but crazy facilities, crazy strength and conditioning, the nutrition, going all in on that kind of stuff. Hopefully the Broncos will get into that. Ivan coming in saying Russ is the problem. Russ is one of the problems. Yeah. You don't. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is he the biggest problem? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But he is definitely a problem for sure. So we'll find out. Michaela coming in. Good morning to you. She says, good morning, guys. Awesome to see you. Ivan also coming back and saying a good quarterback will make up for poor coaching and play selections. Russ is trash. He's been really bad this year.
Trash. Or the Hungarian trash.
Okay. Well. I just thought it was a spelling mistake.
Just messing with you, Ivan. We got it.
But yeah, no, he's struggled this year. It's been rough. Tim Durr, what's up, fellas? Broncos country, not too much. Hanging out, excited for Christmas. Alabama Chagrin, don't recognize this one, saying, good morning, guys. Bench Russ and put his ego in check. What do you think? We have some information, I guess. Nathaniel Hackett yesterday was asked about potentially benching Russ if it would be better for the Broncos, and he said, no, I haven't considered that. The way the question was worded.
It wasn't even that. It was, here, I've got the whole sound clip here.
Are there any scenarios where you'd make a change at quarterback if you thought it would give the team a better chance to win?
Right now, no.
So what's interesting to me is that people took the right now part of it and kind of ran with that, which me watching it live, that was a shutdown. I was expecting more of a political answer. We're always evaluating, we're always looking at this. But to me, that was a shutdown answer. No. Forget the right now part of it. It was no. Are you guys looking at, are there any scenarios where you would consider? And for him to just flat out say no, that was the important part. Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of scenarios. Yeah, if he's too hurt, if his injury flares up, there's lots of scenarios you consider. But for him to just say right now, no, that was a shutdown answer. There are no scenarios that we would consider. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities to lawyer your way in and out of that question. No. Rush your quarterback. And frankly, he should be.
Yeah.
I mean, Are you gonna put in Brett Rippon? You don't have any other options.
No, you don't. Maybe next year, but not this year. It is kind of funny the way the question was worded. The answer should obviously be yes. Like if you think a quarterback gave you
Exactly.
a better chance, would you do it? I think if anybody gives us a better chance, we're going to play those guys. But Russ gives us the best chance right now. Is
Exactly.
really what the answer is.
We're always looking. It's always about competition. You hear it's coach speak all the time. That was as not a non-coach speak answer as you could possibly see, and basically almost contractually to the fact that he is the starting quarterback of this. We have no other options. We have no other choices. We have no other consideration.
Yep.
That's what he said.
Yep. And good morning to Montana.
It surprised me that I was like, wait, people took the right now part of that and ran with it? Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's that time of year, unfortunately, for the Broncos. Once again, Montana Altitude also asking good morning to you.
I don't know the voices of the guys. Do you recognize the voices on those? I could play it again. So when I saved this to my drive, I just titled this "No."
Are there any scenarios where you'd make a change at quarterback if you thought it would give the team a better chance to win?
Right now, no.
I think it's DMAC would be my guess, but I don't live in the Denver area, and I try not to be too involved in the Denver media pissing party sometimes, but also just like what they have to say other than the straight up news, because I don't want to be influenced by takes. I want to have my own analysis and thought process on this team and the issues and whatnot. So I don't know who that is. There's a lot of good Broncos coverage out there. I give respect to that, but I try to do my own thing. Tim Durr, good morning to you. What's up, fellas? Good to see you. Also, hello to Dom. I saw you. Patrick, smell the coffee. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate you so much. Sackman, come in our locker room. Sure, don't like a bunch of people. They hate Wilson. They can't stand Bridgewater. They hated Flock. They couldn't stand the sight of Flacco. Keenan pissed them off. You know what they all hate? Quarterbacks who aren't getting it done and hurting this team from winning and hurting their bottom line. If you are Jerry Jeudy or KJ Hamler right now, obviously the injuries are number one, but with the way this offense is struggling, you're hurting their second contract right now, and that would piss you off.
Sackmar stands for sarcastic. The locker room doesn't hate all those players. That's kind of his point. It's the fact that the media is stirring stuff up because things aren't going well. Mm-hmm. This whole birthday thing is about as ridiculous as, first off, Russ is out there, Jim carrying it in the Pet Detective, calling Omaha with his tutu on. Omaha, Seattle Seahawks. And then the next thing is nobody wants to come to his birthday party. Good Lord, people. You should be ashamed of yourselves. But hey, everybody's got a job to do, I guess. I'm just sure a little more make-believe than others.
Yeah. It's where we are this year, unfortunately. Kevin Hughes coming in saying, what's your opinion on why Hackett still has a job? I think if they would have lost the Jags game, he'd have been out, but now we're this so close to the offseason, they're going to just let it ride through. Also, if you put Ejiro Evero I was asking around on this. If you put Ejiro Evero as the interim head coach, you have to redo his contract, and then it makes it almost impossible to put the genie back in the bottle at defensive coordinator because it's a different contract again. If you keep him at defensive coordinator and you fire Hackett and the offensive staff, you can keep Evero as the defensive coordinator, and he's still under contract with you. So the next head coach could come in and be like, listen, I just have to worry about the offense because I got that guy as the defensive coordinator. Most coaches are going to want to bring their own guy, but you do have that as a selling point because he is under contract. So, if you put him at,
it gives you options.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It gives you options if you might not appreciate the fact that he was being held back after he fired, one of his best friends who hired him, but it does give you contractually the option of having him as defensive coordinator the next season, where most scenarios are he wouldn't be.
Yeah. Yep. Morning, y'all, from James. Good to see you, James. Good morning from Adam. Just thinking we should sign Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. He can throw it over a mountain, that's for sure. Miller 707. What's up, Broncos fam? Hope all is well. Nick and Scott, you guys rock. Thank you for all you do.
Cheers.
Thank you so much, Miller. We got Tim Greenwood saying it's funny how everyone puts it on Russ when there's not a single offensive player doing a good at their job. I think Quinn Miners is doing fine. I think Greg Dulcich is doing fine. And
now
it's a chicken or the... What was that? Now I'm done.
Now you're done. Latavius Murray's doing okay
for his expectation.
For in a small sample size, but you're right. And go ahead and finish that thought, Nick.
Yeah, it's
chicken of the egg.
Chicken or the egg. Yeah. I mean, if the quarterback is playing poorly, then everybody's going to look bad because the quarterback touches the ball on every snap. If he's not getting it to open guys or making the wrong read or not stepping up in the pocket or not quickly getting the ball out, holding on to it too long or using the wrong verbiage at the line of scrimmage or not making the right line checks, I mean, it's bad. But if all these things are also bad, then the quarterback's going to look worse. So
Right.
you don't have the worst offense since 2000 Browns as far as average points per game without everything being bad. There is plenty of blame to go around. I think that a lot of people, and it's just human nature. You want people, not you, Tim, just the people in general want things that are simple and easy to blame. It's the reason, everything is Drew Lock's fault. Everything is Vic Fangio's fault. No, there's plenty of blame to go around. It's complicated. It's a complex issue and it's segmented by 1,000 pieces. This one, we're looking for the easiest solution. It's a big reason so many people are piling on Nathaniel Hackett. He should be piled on. It's not all him right now. So same with Russell.
You're to change one coach, and it is to change the 53. After that, because I've said from last year, when you're getting bullied in the trenches, it makes everything else hard to evaluate. Getting that fixed should be easier than the Broncos have made it look, at least to show improvement, not to go backwards. There's no way this offensive line should have gotten worse. So that goes to, again, your coaching. We've talked about that a little bit. It comes to the guys out there just aren't good enough. I've said before, when you start talking to me about schemes, all I hear, I tune out. Oh, this scheme, I tune out. All I start hearing is this guy's not good enough. We need an upgrade here. Oh, he's going to be better in this scheme. Well, then he sucks. Okay, if I have to mask it by designing a scheme around my guard, he's not good enough. That's where we are on the interior line. That's where we've been at right tackle. Garrett Bowles is competent. Quinn Miners is competent plus. After that, there's work to do. And interior line to get competition at both guard spots and center is not expensive. That might be the easiest one. If we talk about the big three of offensive line, quarterback, coaching, the easiest one to fix should be your interior offensive line.
I'm going to disagree with a couple points here on this
Okay.
one. Good morning to Cristiano coming in here. Number one, easiest to fix on the interior offensive line. I might argue at this point, the easiest one to fix for the Broncos, given where they're at this position, might be running back. Because
no. I mean, of the biggest problems. So I consider those the three biggest problems.
Oh, coaching, head coach,
or
coaching, quarterback.
The coaching, your quarterback play, and your offensive line. I consider those the three biggest problems on the team right now.
I don't disagree.
Three, the easiest of those three to fix should be your interior OL, because you could miss on offensive line. I mean, on coach, it's not easy to get the right coaching staff in. That's not easy.
No,
it's why guys get fired every 3 years.
Yeah.
And quarterback, we know where you're stuck at quarterback, and that's not easy either.
No, it's not.
Improving at guard and center should be easy. Really, really easy.
I agree. Just the point I was going to make, though. Running back this season, a lot of good free agents. Your running back room is absolutely freaking, it's a joke right now. It's Marlon Mack, Latavius Murray. Mike Boone practiced. Hey, Mike Boone would be your best back if you get him in here. You might get another explosive run this week. And this is a really deep, talented running back class as well. So I think you got a good chance to improve that room next year. You need to attack that position, I think, with the assumption that you might not have Javonte Williams until halfway through next year. So you got to bring in somebody, unfortunately. But we got Cristiano coming in saying, good morning, Nick. The other point I was going to disagree with slightly, down the margins, because there's not enough good players at every single position, you do have to find somewhat scheme fits for players. And that's on the, what's the word they want to use now? God, there's alignment of the, that's the catchphrase, the catchword, the buzzword for all the college programs these days. You want to have alignment of your coaching staff and your front office, so that way they can identify players who might not be the best in some schemes, but are great for your scheme. So then your coach can put them in the best position to succeed. So like you have Mike Iupati, you don't want him, playing wide zone in the NFL. You want him power. You want him to destroy a defensive tackle and then not have to worry about climbing, just create that gap. So I agree with you in like the top players, but I do think scheme fit does matter to an extent. The issue is right now the Broncos guys who are scheme fits, we've had both schemes. They've struggled in both. So that's the biggest
point. Would Mike Iupati be awful in a different scheme, or would he be serviceable?
He'd be serviceable.
He'd be
but
serviceable.
He's a
So
god.
if you're
in
awful
power.
in this scheme and we're trying to mask you by that scheme, you're not good enough.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with you there. KB82, morning fellas. Who are some good free agents targeting the offensive line? Elton Jenkins is one. I haven't really dug into the free agency group as much yet because I am a big proponent of street free agents. So that way you can play the compensatory pick game. So I like to see who's cut before going hard at the free agency group. But I know that Elton Jenkins is really talented. I don't know if he's going to want to come here, but if you throw money at a guy, I guess you could. Michael Ronquillo saying good morning. Good to see you, Michael. Always positive having you in here. And let's start to get into this. I think the first thing I want to talk about here with this Broncos team is this upcoming Ravens game. This Broncos team, I think, is 8.5-point dogs on the road in Baltimore this week. And I might be a fool for saying this. The Broncos team could come out and look absolutely horrible against the Ravens because they looked terrible last week. I mean, we pile on the offense, but the defense looked as bad as they have all season, in my opinion, in that game. I mean, you made Sam Darnold look like a top 15 quarterback, and you couldn't stop Dante Foreman at all. DJ Moore had I think they gave up a 100-yard passer and a 100-yard rusher for the second week in a row, which is not good for a defense. But I think this Broncos game, as long as they show up and want to show up, I think they got a chance in this Ravens game. I think this Ravens offense is circling the drain a little bit right now. They are not very good on the offensive line. They are terrible at wide receiver. And Lamar Jackson left yesterday's game with a quad injury. Right now, and you can do it when you have a quarterback like Lamar who's such a playmaker, but right now their offense is Lamar, go do something. And if Lamar is hurt, you have a chance to put yourself in a position to win this game or at least cover the spread. So I think that Denver has more of a chance right now than a lot of the fans and the media are stating. I've not been impressed by this Ravens team over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, they still usually have the ability to get physical in the trenches. And like you said, a lot of this is Lamar Jackson, but they do have the number 2 rushing attack in the NFL. And a lot of that is Lamar Jackson, but not all of it.
No.
And this, when we talk about the chances that the Broncos had this time a week ago, 7 days ago, we could probably find a clip of me saying this defense will give you a chance in every game. I don't care who you're playing. That changes when the defense isn't playing their best. When the defense starts feeling disheartened, when the defense is starting to mail it in, you don't have a chance against anybody. No. So it is all dependent on what your defense is feeling at that time. Because if your defense is playing inspired football, they can hold anybody to 15 points. Anybody, depending on how the game's going. Turnover here, turnover there. They can keep you in the game against anybody. Problem is your offense is so bad, you're going to be in the game against anybody. You're going to play to that level. It's going to be a tight, low-scoring game. And eventually, when your offense isn't helping, your defense will slip up and give up a late touchdown to make it 13-10, because 13 points is good in the NFL. And 13 points against is good in this team. So for me, Nick, on paper and all these things is yes, just like I said a week ago. But if I see the same type of effort on the road against the Ravens as we saw against the Panthers, no, you do not have a chance in this game. So it's gonna, and we'll know early. Yeah. We will know early who showed up for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That Panthers game, it was pretty apparent out of the gate. I mean, what did the Broncos do? 3 and outs in their first 3 drives, or 2 out of 3, and the Panthers were moving the ball down the field, not in really chunks early on.
Pinning them in.
Pinning them in and moving the ball and controlling the ball. I mean, I think in the first half, the Panthers had time of possession almost 3-1 for the Broncos and almost 2 times the plays as the Broncos had. And it was bad. Another thing is the Broncos are going to win this game. And again, everybody drink. Nick's going to talk about the Hawkeyes. If you watch any Iowa football this year, the ineptitude of
haven't. We haven't, Nick.
No, I don't blame you.
Nobody in here has watched any Iowa football except you.
Okay, well, it's almost like the Broncos for the levels of incompetence on the offensive side of the ball and how much weight and water the defense is carrying. Now, the Iowa Hawkeye defense scored like 8 touchdowns this year compared to the we'll put a pin in this. So first we got to say hello to Deanna coming in here saying Oh, there we go. It skipped. Morning, guys. Go Broncos. $50, Deanna. God bless you. Thank you so much. But the point I was making was the Hawkeyes are winning football games with horrible 130th ranked out of 132 teams in Division I football offense because they have a top 10 special teams unit and because they are a very unpenalized team and they're protecting the football. Now, the Broncos, since they got rid of Melvin Gordon, they're not turning over the ball left and right, which is good. You can win football games that way. But the special teams is freaking abysmal. It is a horrible, laughable clown. Everybody getting out of the clown car. It's a birthday party there. That's maybe their special teams unit came to the birthday party for Russ in a clown car. They were the entertainment
car.
Yeah, God, just horrible. They get terrible. Montreal Washington's making bad decisions when he decides to field it or not, or fair catch it or not. He's taking bad lanes. The coverage units are terrible. McManus is missing kicks. The holds are terrible. Corliss Waitman, I think, had an okay game against the Panthers in the punting department. But you cannot lose games. You cannot win games with your offense being this bad and your special teams being, I don't even think it's debatable, one of the worst three special teams units in football. You can win games in the margins if your special teams unit is a weapon and elite and your defense is great and your offense is taking the air out of the ball. That's what we've seen. Iowa's done that for 2 years now.
Well, we've seen it here with the I want to say the San Francisco 49ers, but that was a game you won because of your special teams, because of pinning the team in, winning the field position battle, and pinning the team in and winning the special teams battle. That's how you were able to win that game. Indianapolis Colts, no. There was somebody else. There was another bad team that
Jets
you lost to. Was it Raiders the second time around? Where the
terrible
special teams is letting you down.
Yep. And
that's where it is. But 2 out of 3. If I'm losing 2 out of 3 phases, I'm probably going to lose a game.
Yeah.
Winning them. And again, want to say hello. I didn't get a chance to say good morning to Deanna. Thank you for coming in. She says, morning, guys. Go Broncos. Hashtag MHH for life. Thank you so much. Make sure you tune in tonight. We're going to have the super chat rankings for the month of November, since today's 12/1. And you and the DWI guys, Ethan, were neck and neck within like whatever the pound was converting at is probably how close it was. So thank you so much for everything you've done for us and continue to do for us in this holiday season.
Yeah. God bless you, Deanna. We appreciate you helping us so much here. Did Subway cater the party? God, everyone get your jokes in. It's a good time. Might as well have some fun with it. Todd Smith, good morning to you, Todd. We also got Lawrence Bros. What's good this morning? The Broncos, I think, have a chance to cover the spread if it's close and the defense shows up. Jesse Sanchez, also good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you, Jesse. So yeah, I really do think that if this Broncos team doesn't have, absolutely laughable special teams like we had in this last game, then this team can come out and do some stuff. Now, the Ravens still have a really good defense. They're not elite like they have been in years past, but their front seven can still get after it, especially their linebacking core. They traded for Roquan Smith, who's probably one of the top 5 linebackers in football. Now Patrick Queen is not having to be the signal caller and the be in position every time linebacker. He can be a little bit more of a roamer or free reign, which allows him to be athletic in space and not think so much, which has been great for Patrick Queen out there. They have a lot of players in the trenches that are extremely talented. We both loved Odafe Owe, who is going to be an interesting matchup in this one. Not an elite pass rusher, but an elite athlete and a height, weight, speed player. I think this Ravens team, though, is vulnerable in the perimeter on the defensive side of the ball as well. Who do they have out there? Marcus Peters has been giving up big plays this season. Their slot, I think they have according to DVOA, the 30th ranked slot play in the entire NFL as far as defense goes. So the Broncos have a chance to hit some big plays against this Ravens team. The big caveat here is, can we get back healthy just one of KJ Hamler or Jerry Jeudy? If KJ Hamler or Jerry Jeudy are in this game, I think the Broncos offense might have a chance. If they're not in this game, I think the chances drop precipitously.
Well, and like you're saying, you're talking about, their front seven and their defense not being this. Does it matter? I mean, we're talking about a historically bad offense here. If they don't have to be the Ravens of old to still be effective against this team right now. You keep thinking, okay, it's gonna click. Kendall Hinton flash, but it's still Kendall Hinton. Kendall Hinton's a 3 at best on an average team. This isn't the team we were talking about coming in, where Albert Okwuegbunam is going to have a breakout season. Sutton and Patrick are going to feast, and Judy's going to be catching everything underneath and running all over the place. Okwuegbunam's a bust. Patrick never showed up. Sutton's been okay at times. Judy has been MIA.
Yeah.
We're talking about, hey, can we bring in Jalen Virgil and Brandon Johnson? And Dulcich is our best offensive weapon.
Yeah.
And Javonte Williams. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. But, I love the analysis of the Ravens, which as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, Nick, when we get to the playoffs and you and I are doing shows that are playoff centric, this is great. These are all the reasons why the Ravens are vulnerable. Not this week. Just not this week.
I just think that, and it's been the case with the Broncos this whole year. I'm not going to pick them to win. Don't get me wrong, but
I know.
it's been one-score games.
It's all this talk, and then I know you're going to come out and say, and the Broncos lose by 7. It's kind of like when I'm shooting hoops. I'm like 3, 2, 1, yes, and we lose by 27. That's kind of how I mess around, just being sarcastic. I mean, like, this team is wrong. This is this, and we're going to lose by 7 instead of 11.
Yep.
Damn.
And it's going to feel better than last week's game because the Broncos have been in every single game this year. The margins are close. This is a bad team that can't finish right now, and one of the reasons is because they're so terrible in the margins and they can't get a lot of things done. But I don't think it's not going to be a blowout loss for the Broncos in this one. I think they match up better than they did against the Panthers. I mean, I don't know how much you were obviously here, but folks in the chat, we have that Panthers game coming, and I'm like, this Panthers defense, how they match up with the Broncos scares the hell out of me because they are
Panthers. We both watched the Panthers 2 out of the last 3 weeks covering the Falcons. We watch what the Panthers do, especially at home when they're on.
Yeah,
when they're on, they're good.
That
team is good. They're 3-0 at home. The Panthers are no joke when they want to play.
If they get a quarterback,
if the Broncos don't want to play, they're gonna get beat.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that Panthers team is built pretty darn well right now. I'm really curious to see what they do this offseason. They might have to go after a quarterback. That's obviously the big one. But their cornerbacks, 2 top 10 picks, and they got 2 lottery picks on the defensive line. I mean, and the offensive lineman. They were dictating.
Well, we know the Panthers aren't afraid to throw some resources at quarterback.
Yeah,
but they've taken their shots. $30 million. That was probably closer to $60 million at Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Yep. A second round pick and $20 million at Darnold, and then they got Baker Mayfield for a song.
Yeah.
But their record is still be bad enough. Now I'm sorry to talk Panthers here.
Yeah.
But they should still be in the hunt for one of the better quarterbacks.
Yep.
So Lawrence is always in the hunt for us. He says, "Big bros, hey bros, what's good this morning? The coffee from Patrick. Lioncoffee.com is good this morning, that's for sure." And it feels a little bit like a Friday. Fridays are light for me, so Thursday kind of feels like Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It does feel like a Friday for sure, which means tomorrow work is going to be rough, but that's okay. Char coming in saying, "Good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Char." Or is it Char? Let us know in the comments. I've seen you come in a few times. We got Jetty Splash in here as well. In other words, another blowout loss for the Broncos. The only blowout loss so far this season was that Panthers game. I don't think that's going to happen again this week. And the big thing here is, we talked about it already. Right now, this Panthers team, the fan base, they want Greg Roman fired. They are so fed up with this offense and the anemic passing game that they have going on there. Now, part of the reason is their wide receivers are horrible. Their best one is DeSean Jackson, who's closer to being an AARP member than he is a rookie. And he's always been somewhat of a one-trick pony as far as the vertical game, but now it's limited tremendously. So they have 2 good tight ends. They have Jalen Richard at fullback, who's a 300-pound fullback who also plays defensive line. God, what a fun player he is.
DeSean was a player who was eaten up with little man's disease. Because he was a smaller guy and he made sure that he had the biggest personality. Basically, he was an arrogant a-hole coming up through. But he wasn't just a one-trick pony. It's just his explosion going forward was so good. His hands are fantastic. I mean, they're so good. He's been as much as I dislike the guy on the field, the way he acted and the way I saw him off the field, because he was an Army All-American when we were covering it, and I was around him for a week. Didn't particularly like him. He's a hell of a wide receiver. It's more than just, okay, this guy run deep and throw it long. He's a hell of a player. Give him some credit.
That's fair. Yeah, he wasn't it also Chip Kelly that had issues with him, kicked him out of Philly because of some
It wouldn't
behavioral.
surprise me if any. He wasn't the one. That was a fun year because there was an Iowa quarterback that was there whose roommate was an offensive lineman, grabbed him by the throat and pinned him up against the wall. Said, "If you open your mouth again one more time, I'm going to kill you."
Wow.
And this was a good old country boy from Tennessee,
Mm.
who was as nice as can be. That's how big of a prick that kid was. So
Yeah.
good stuff. The dynamics of these all-star games are always fun. Anyway, but DeSean was, like I said, he had a big helping of little man's disease, and it helped him fuel him as an undersized guy to reach the heights that he did as a wide receiver. Because you start looking at his resume and what he's done, he's probably a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's been really good. A one-trick pony, I guess, is definitely the seldom short because it's also he was a dynamic special teams player too. But that speed, the ability to track the football, it's also you can be fast, but if you don't have the spatial awareness to how to close on the gap, it's kind of like you have a fast center fielder, but they have to be able to read the ball off the bat. So yeah, no,
I don't want him on my team. Never wanted him on my team, but I mean, he's a good football player.
Yeah, was a good football player.
Where is he? He's got over 11,000 yards. And let's see, and 58 touchdowns. Not as many touchdowns as you might think for a home run type of threat, but he's had 82 catches in Philly in 2013. Spent some time with the Redskins. That's not surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. So talking schematically here for the Ravens, how would you this Broncos personnel pretty well, how would you game plan against this Lamar Jackson team? What would you be doing out there as far as personnel and just different points of emphasis?
I'd probably go with the front four and try and put pressure on them with the front four. You don't have quite the weapons that you did last year. Last year they tried to just build a cloud around him and say, okay, stay in the pocket and beat us. He did.
You
didn't put pressure. Most quarterbacks, other than Zach Wilson, if you let them stand back there and throw and pick their targets, they're going to pick you apart at this level. They're just too good. I mean, high D1 guys, we've said it a zillion times. If you see them drop 5 steps back, set their foot and throw to their first read, it's a completion 99% of the time. The NFL, it's like 99.9. So I think you got a better chance with DJ Jones getting pressure, from the interior side, Draymond coming in also, and then using your two edges. But I would still go after him, but I wouldn't want to blitz him and lose containment for sure, because how this team's going to beat you is him freelancing. So play disciplined, limit the big plays, but still go after him, and see if anybody else can beat you.
I agree with you. One thing that a lot of teams do with DeSean Jackson is they will play a spy who will be kind of a secondary rusher against him. And once he breaks contain, that spy will try to close the gap on him and pursue him. I don't think the Broncos have, and it's just to limit him, keep him in front of you, push him to the sidelines. So that way help him get there rather than, yes, it's a quarterback spy contain, essentially.
He's so fat. I mean, he's the closest thing to Michael Vick we've had since Michael Vick.
Yeah, I agree.
And Vick was the fastest guy on the field.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. The point I'm making, though, is that I don't think the Broncos have the pure burner athlete at the linebacker position on this team to play that style of defense. I don't think you want to have Josie Jewell or Alex Singleton needing to get a foot race to him so he doesn't get the peel off the tight end versus, pushed outside the boundary, outside the hash marks, and outside the numbers. So I don't think that's the type of defense that you're looking to do in this one. I think much more you're going to need to, blitz pretty consistently, especially with how bad the Ravens are in the pass game. So maybe allocate a little bit less resources there. Blitz with discipline. You cannot be, creating a massive gap out there. The Ravens, I think, are a little bit undersized, underpowered in the interior. So I think that Tyler Linderbaum, first round pick, amazing in the run game, moves better than any center in football. He's small. So you hopefully in your pass rush, you're not getting pushed out and creating a huge gap for Lamar Jackson. And I'm using a good amount of base package defense and blitzing. It's not going to be the Derrick Henry, we're playing a 5-3 front out there, but I think you're going to see a good amount of 5-2 and sending 5 or 6 guys as run blitzes to take those gaps and make Lamar Jackson beat you using his arm in one-on-one situations with the perimeter weapons. I'm going to bet on the Broncos coverage in this one, given the lack of talent on the boundary for the Ravens.
Yeah, and when you talk about, blitzing and sending somebody after, the discipline you need then becomes from your exterior guys to hem them in.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm blitzing inside and Nick Bonito runs a spin move to the inside, and if let's say he's lining up on the left side of the defense, he spins inside to beat somebody. Basically, know who your blitz is and say, if that guy doesn't get him, I then switch off. It's almost like a zone blitz. I have to then take his job and keep containment then. Interesting question coming in here to going back towards the draft. Scarecrow says, I'm late today. What do you guys think? Appreciate you coming in with the super and being here. What do you guys think of Denver drafting Spencer Rattler on day 3 if he's available? Nick?
There's a lot of information out there that Spencer Rattler there's some character issues with him. So obviously, I think a quarterback, you need to have the combination of the tools, the intelligence, and the heart to get it all done and working. And again, there's been issues with Spencer Rattler. Now, I think that the video of him, what was it, QBU or whatever it was, where he was a complete D-bag, he was, 17 or 16 at that point. People can grow and change from that. But I think it's very much a Chad Kelly situation where the tools are there, but he might be entitled to the point where it's concerning. Now, if you interview him and you click with him and you say, you know what, I think you can give him a chance, because the arm talent is obvious. I mean, the tools are obvious, but there's going to be a lot of other day 3 quarterbacks too. So again, it's going to come down to that personal interview, the interpersonal relationship in that process. And it's a day 3 pick on a quarterback. That's just a dice roll. If you have extra day 3 picks, I could be talked into it, but I am skeptical given the talk of him and his character.
No thanks, Scarecrow. Not in this locker room, not with this dynamic, not without a Mike Tomlin authoritarian type of coach to put him in. And frankly, the arm talent has been there, but the production hasn't. People want to see that game against the Tennessee Vols was phenomenal. I mean, he was 6 touchdowns, no interceptions against a team ranked top 10. Those 6 touchdowns is all that is keeping him from having more touchdowns than interceptions. He has 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Throw that game out, he's got 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions from South Carolina. And they're not exactly playing Georgia every single week. He's been horrific this year. He was bad at Oklahoma last year after he got his big money NIL deal, got beat out by Caleb Williams. Okay, Caleb Williams is pretty damn good, but this was your team. Usually they'll make a kid wait his turn. Transferred out, goes to South Carolina and stinks. Had a big, hey, look at me game for the Gamecocks that overshadowed what has been a disastrous year for him in South Carolina. Spencer Rattler, I'm not using a draft pick on him. No, thank you.
I think it would be best for him to go back. I think he also had a pretty good game against South Carolina, against South Carolina. Against Clemson.
Two touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
Throwing for a bunch, 360 yards. Where, again, the only time he's broken 300, he did in the second game against Arkansas. The only time that was the first time he'd broken 200 in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
He's erratic as hell. And again, we mentioned Chad Kelly. We're talking about DeSean Jackson. We're talking about this other kid from the Army All-American Bowl. We used to rank those kids when I was a scout as the ones most likely to get their asses beat by their teammates. Mm. We may name that the Spencer Rattler Award. Yeah. So just
here, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat real quick. Draft a quarterback that is such a jerk that teammates rally around Russell Wilson. It's like, oh my God, we have to go with that guy. Hell no, we're going to play for Russ. That's our dude. We're all going to show up for the birthday.
I mean, you got a guy that's been around 10 years in the NFL who's a grown man. He's not putting up with that. It'd be kind of, you've heard me talk about Derrick Henry before.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry was soft. He was soft in high school. I said Nick Saban was either going to wash him out of football or turn him into a man. So you get him into the NFL and he will either be killed or humbled. One of the two. There's not a lot of in between there. So, but again, as far as if I'm just looking at those numbers and watching his play for this year, he's an absolute no. And if he didn't have so much hype the year before at Oklahoma, we wouldn't be talking about Spencer Rattler. We wouldn't be because he's been bad this year. One really fantastic game against Tennessee put him back on the map in what has been otherwise an abysmal year for him.
Yeah. Deanna coming back in, $50 again. Oh, you took it off the screen there. We did not read it yet.
I did because I screwed that up.
It's okay. Just want to win. Deanna says we really need offensive line for next year. They're cheap. Go get some really good players. They're not exactly cheap, especially offensive tackles, but you do need to throw resources at it this offseason. I think the only way to get Russell Wilson to function at a league average level is to have him play off of a top 10 rushing attack. And right now the Broncos are bottom 5 in rushing EPA this season. Some of that is because of the fumbles at the goal line, but I digress. You want to have a much better offense run game, so that way you're getting teams into more single high safety shells and also play action. Russell Wilson has been very good off of play action in his career. Has not been so much the case for this Broncos team this season. So that's I think you do need to invest in the offensive line, specifically for the run game personnel. I would even lean into give me average pass blockers if they are B+ or better run blockers. The guys that will force teams into less advantageous play calls and personnel against the pass because you are that good that good at running the ball.
To Deanna's point here, though, the 12th highest available free agent guard coming into this season before any moves coming up, just guys that are coming off the contracts, is Tom Compton at $2.2 million. The highest free agent is $9 million. It's Justin Pugh. He's 32 years old. Roger Saffold, 34 at $6.5. Matt Pryor, guard. And these guys that are a little bit older and more expensive have had struggles. They might not necessarily. Matt Pryor was tried at tackle. Wes Schweitzer at Washington, 29. He's 29 years old. 4.5. Nick Gates, New York Giants, 3.4. So if you trust your scouting department, you can unearth some guys that can help you play early. That they're not going to be expensive. But how many of them are out there? The bar has been set so low. You should be able to improve. And at center, the top 4 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, are above, are 9 or above the top 4. That's it. The next one's $4 million. So if you trust your scouting department, you identify, you should have the money to go sign a center, to go sign a guard. And then I'm drafting 3. And I'm drafting 2 guards and a center. And I'm bringing in 5 guys that I think should be able to, any one of which I believe can upgrade what I've got now. And I should be better next year. Yeah. I think, relatively speaking, they are cheap, and luckily for us and the benefit of our show, Deanna Hendry is not. So thank you so much.
Connor McGovern, I think, is a center that could be available. He's been pretty good for the Jets, and you guys might remember him because he was the Broncos center for a number of years, and they let him walk and went with Lloyd Cushenberry instead. So maybe you'll see a reunion there. He's one who's been relatively healthy and been playing pretty well for the Jets out there. So we'll see. I think Mitch Morse is also a free agent, but he's older. He'll be entering, I think, his 3rd or 4th contract, and he's had some injuries, so I don't think I'd go after him.
And then which one of those tackles, Nick, are like, okay, we want you a guard. I just did guys that I just looked at spot rack and guard at center. And again, $5 million is a lot of money on the free agent market for a guard or a center, and that you went out and spent, 16 on Glasgow. Glad I wasn't around for that one.
Yeah, that was the season they gave out massive contract to Melvin Gordon and Graham Glasgow, and then drafted 2 wide receivers in the first. That was
they're not doing enough to help Drew Lock year.
Yep.
As they go out and buy a new offensive lineman, 2 receivers, and a running back.
Yep.
Man, I wish I had no support like that.
Yeah. To be fair, Drew Lock got hurt, and that kind of sent things down the drain. And I think that was the right idea, but a lot of the wrong players in hindsight, obviously. But it's what it is. It's we're here now, and don't need to bury Drew Lock.
Andrew Wiley is still on a 1-year deal. He's still starting for Kansas City. He was the guy I pointed out last year. He's on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal playing right tackle for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
man, double his money. Throw him 5.
he's not that good, but I think a lot of it is how easy it is for him because of how teams rush Patrick Mahomes and how quickly Mahomes can get rid of the ball. But seeing him like in actual reps, guys are getting around him pretty consistently. If you have the difference between Russell Wilson,
what's the problem? He'll slide right in.
yeah, God, just isolating him when watching the Chiefs game, which I do watch a good bit. Unfortunately, he's by far the issue on that offensive line. But any other thoughts on this Ravens game? We'll circle back around, but I didn't want to talk about this Patrick Surtain bit here that ESPN insider released.
My thoughts on this are the game will be as competitive as the Broncos want to make it. We've said before we hadn't seen them check out. I said checked out probably week 5 last year. Dead man walking. This team is done. They've quit on this team. First time I saw a hint of that was last week against the Panthers on the road against a team you don't match up very well with based on all the struggles we've talked about all year. You don't really match up that great against the Ravens either. I mean, when we said, when's the last time? What's the Broncos' record against the AFC North? It's 0 since I've been doing this the last 2 years, like 0-6, 0-5 maybe. These are physical teams that bully the Broncos. This team hasn't exactly shown a lot of intestinal fortitude in the 2 years that I've been watching them. In Baltimore, in the Ravens, can you control the trenches? Can you keep the game close? And the special teams play better and just get anything. Just get anything. Anything from the offense. Anything at all. Anything.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I will say is
the Broncos want it to be.
Yeah. I agree with you. So last point I want to make on this Ravens team, they've been pretty darn good this year against stopping the run. That has improved by folds, leaps and bounds, whatever you want to say, since they added Roquan Smith up front. But I think this Broncos team, they need to shorten the game as much as they can and protect Russell Wilson and run the football. Even if it's not super efficient, I think they need to stick with it as long as the defense is keeping the game close. Now, if you're down by 17 and it's the middle of the second quarter, game plan out the window, we're going to have to throw it around the yard. That's what happened against the Panthers, even though they were efficient in dropping it. Oh, why didn't the Broncos run the ball at the end? Well, they were down 17.
You needed Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Arthur Smith will get down 24-3, and by God, he's going to run the ball. He'll make it close.
I think part of it is, again, Russell Wilson wants to cook versus protect Russell Wilson as much as you can right now from that. But I digress. So I think that you need to be, as long as the game is close, stick with the run game, even if it's not as efficient, play the field position battle, and hopefully get into it. And you need to, if you do get in the red zone, scoring touchdowns versus field goals. Because this Ravens team, they are going to be able to kick field goals from all over the yard. Justin Kicker, this might be recency bias, but he might be the best kicker to ever play in the NFL. He'll probably be a Hall of Famer, first ballot as a kicker, which is insane. But that makes winning the special teams that much more difficult. But scoring touchdowns when you're down there and protecting the football. So easy things, right, guys? It's something that we've been preaching all season. But before we start to wrap it on up here, and we'll give our Ravens prediction score before we get on out. The Patrick Surtain was listed as one of the best players under 25 years old in the entire NFL. And Scott, I'm not an ESPN insider member, so if you have that,
I sent it to you like 3 days ago.
You sent it to me, but you sent me the link, and you put it in the private chat. So
I didn't sign up for their digital. It's actually a part of the ESPN Pluses. They were smart and they packaged everything together. And I subscribed to ESPN Plus for their soccer coverage, which gives me their website. I'm like, oh, thanks. I wouldn't have ever signed up for the website.
So I'll give you a second here, but yeah, the top players under 24, under 25 years old.
How'd I send it to you? You always DM me via Twitter, and I don't use Twitter for discussions.
I think you put it in the private chat.
Right.
So it's gone. Whatever show that was. So but
I know
that's
where I wrote about it, so I know where to find the link.
So yeah, Patrick Surtain, he's been having some struggles his last couple weeks. Talk about a get-right game for him in the pass game. Now, the run game might be a different story in this one with Lamar Jackson. Especially, I'm concerned about the safeties in that one because they've been really struggling coming down and not giving up leaky yardage. That was a big issue against the Panthers too. Leaky yardage, man. Tackling a guy at the line of scrimmage and then he carries him for another 3 yards. But Patrick Surtain listed as the 8th best player in the NFL under 24 years old, an obvious building block.
So it's a top 25 under 25, and he's just 22, so he could be on here for a while.
Yes. So amazing player. Broncos should be happy to have him. Even though he's playing great football, they're still 3-8 with the 4th overall pick heading to the Seahawks right now. So even if you have a all-world cornerback, if you're not getting it done on offense and the quarterback, then it doesn't matter. But Patrick Surtain. So let me know, Scott. What do we say about Patrick?
It says Surtain is an excellent physical profile and great speed. He's already one of the top cover corners, and this is the one that I just don't care about. While his on-the-ball production has declined this season, Surtain grabbed 4 interceptions as a rookie and has 21 pass breakups in his young career. He is rapidly ascending talent with true lockdown potential. Well, lockdown potential is one of the reasons why you're not getting interceptions. They're not throwing it at him. Do you remember a lot of them where Pat Surtain's like, oh, man, he dropped another one. That's why he's playing. I mean, you make jokes about that all the time. It's like, if you could catch, you'd be playing wide receiver or linebacker hands. Those are cliches. I don't remember him missing interceptions. I just don't remember him getting targeted very much.
I think that part of the thing with Surtain is that teams are not targeting him so much. Part of it is that I don't think he is the S-tier athlete at the cornerback position as terms as explosion and speed. Mm-hmm. Is he a 4.3 guy compared to Champ Bailey is a 4.2? And that's one of the things.
Plenty fast.
It is plenty fast. I mean, we're talking margins here, but as far as closing on the football, it does matter. It's one of the reasons I like Surtain more in a press scheme versus off coverage. He's always in control, amazing technique. I don't know if he's the twitchiest cornerback that's ever played football. That doesn't matter. You don't have to be 99 in every single thing in Madden to be the best at your position. So I think that's part of it as well. The big thing, though, besides not being targeted, is that teams are playing uber conservative football against the Broncos because they know if they can get to 14 points or 17 points, they're going to win the game. So why they're never in a position where they have to play aggressive and throw low probability footballs or call low probability aggressive plays, because how are the Broncos going to win? If we turn the ball over and they get a defensive score. How is that most likely to happen? Throwing it at Patrick Surtain.
At the beginning of the season, we talked a lot about improved sack and interceptions numbers because you should be playing with the lead more often. And
worse.
That didn't happen. That didn't happen this year. Yeah, again, it's all we can run strings together. Again, it's not binary. Is the quarterback the problem? Quarterback's a problem. Is coaching the problem? It's a problem. Offensive line is a problem. All those things contribute to how the teams are going to play against you when they've got the ball. So it's again, there's a lot of things in there, but as far as on the ball, how many times have we seen him not get the interception that he should have gotten? And some of that comes where you're actually coming off of your man, Nick. Mm-hmm. The interceptions are coming. I've got the short out, but I recognize and I backpedal into the back third a little bit more and get the the post corner route and help out the safety. Some of that's where those interceptions come from, and that just maybe come with experience. But I agree with you. I think your point is a better one, that I don't have to risk the ball against this team to win. I don't have to.
Yeah, and the final thing here is how the defense has changed with losing Bradley Chubb in terms of run defense. Now, obviously, the Broncos' run defense was incredible against the Titans. That was due to an all-out personnel change selling out to stop Derrick Henry. But against the last 2 games, the Raiders and the Panthers, Broncos were really bad in getting stuffs or tackles for loss against the run game. I mean, a lot of leaky yardage, as I mentioned earlier. It's non-negotiable for a good football team. You're tackling, and then that running back's running for another 3 yards with a guy draped on him. Guess what happens when you do that twice? Instead of 2nd or 3rd and 7, it's now 3rd and 2. It's much harder to get after the quarterback and make them throw less advantageous passes if it's 3rd and 2 because of just the distance and the quick drop and whatnot versus 3rd and 7. So just the types of plays that you can do on defense and the aggression you can play with on 3rd and 7 versus 3rd and 2 is totally different and hurts this defense. Small sample size, only 2 weeks, but it's been significantly worse the last 2 weeks.
Well, and part of that also comes along when you lose Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory, and the quarterback's got more time. Oh, Devontae Adams is cooking Pat Surtain on a drag route, running 40 yards across the field. Okay,
he's getting home.
He shouldn't have that. You shouldn't have that much time to be able to run that route. That's a lot of field to cover. I don't put that on Surtain, but Surtain being a top player one of the top 25 under 25, coming in the top 10. Shouldn't be much of a surprise. One of the interesting ones for me was Jonathan Taylor talks about the position that he's had. He's still just 23. He doesn't turn 24 till January. Hell, he was the number 3 overall player on the list on NFL.com's list, and he came in at 18 on this list. That's the kind of season that he and the Colts have had this year. So,
Yeah.
But who else would you consider when you start talking about some of the players that are on here? Baron Browning, not yet. Quinn Miners, probably not. There's a lot of skill guys on here. There's a little bit of, there's some surprises, high up. We know Quinnen Williams at number 6. We know he's a beast. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, 2 and 3, with number 1 being Micah Parsons, listed at defensive end and linebacker, who's 23 years old. Justin Herbert, still just 24. Jalen Hurts is still just 24. Seems like he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf is just 24. I can't believe Rashawn Gary is only 24 years old. I didn't realize he was that young when I still lived in New Jersey when he was up there. And I went to see him play in high school. He was heavier in high school than he is now, because we had him projected as a defensive tackle because he was 290 pounds as a probably 15 or 16-year-old at the time. So lots of good players on there. Pat Surtain definitely has earned his spot.
Yep, he has. Yeah, it's a good list out there. Some good players. Wish some of those guys were Broncos. Alas, what can you do? But all right, last thing before we get on out of here.
Fields made the list.
He did?
21. The hottest up and coming quarterback in the league this season. Fields has become a true dual threat for the Bears. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Was Trevor Lawrence on there?
Trevor Lawrence is on there. He I think he was a little bit higher. I put the link in there. Trevor Lawrence was not on there. I'd still have Trevor Lawrence ahead of
Justin Fields.
Yeah,
Same.
I mean, it's just
Same.
Again, I think when they were playing the Falcons is the only time I've watched the whole way through a Bears game where I could see all the graphics and everything and all the stats that they're coming through. But he's like 0 for 8 on chances to win or tie in the fourth quarter, because that's when he has to throw the ball, and he's not there yet. I'd give me that same scenario, and I'll take Trevor Lawrence in that scenario.
Yep, agree with you 100%. Ethan coming in, closing this out before we get our score predictions here. Fit the 50 pounds. Ethan, England and USA advancing has got to be good for you. So appreciate you so much, and thank you so much for the support. Scott, score prediction. What's going to happen in this game?
Pain. Before I get out of here, before we do that, I just want to say thanks to all of our contributors in the chat. The super chats from Scarefro, Deanna and Ethan, and then Lawrence coming in on with some stars. It wasn't just Lawrence. There was one other one, and probably Shar Baldwin coming in here. She comes in with some stars too on Facebook. So thank you so much to all of you. My score prediction will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 17-6. Maybe throw in a touchdown and get 13, and you end up 17-13, 19-13, something, one of those odd type of scores with a lot of field goals. Lots of field goals, few touchdowns.
I think that's not a bad prediction at all. I'm going to go with the Broncos losing this one 16-13. I think the defense is going to show up in this one. I think Lamar Jackson's quad injury is going to limit them enough, but I think the Broncos, again, losing in the margins, special teams, penalties, third downs, et cetera, et cetera. So it's rough. And 78 lead head coming in. They're talking about screens in this game. We were good at screens against the Seahawks. What happened since? It's bizarre. What has happened since? Well, the Seahawks defense didn't have a great game. Russ was having a solid game in that one. You lost your outlet is essentially what happened. The Broncos really wanted to involve the running backs in the pass game for this offense, and Javonte Williams getting the ball in space was a nice outlet for this team. Now you have no outlets at the running back position that do anything in the pass game. You even made that trade, and maybe you could envision something with Chase Edmonds when you traded him, but he got hurt. So there's just absolutely zero dynamism from the running back position on this team right now. Not forget the passing game, as a running game too. So I think that's what happened in the screen game. You lost Devonta Williams, who, if you got him in space, he could do some things.
Check the mobility of your offensive line also.
Oh, yeah.
When we talk about scheme fits type of things, those plays, your offensive line, again, scheme schmeem. I need some athleticism out of my OL. Lloyd Cushenberry might be that guy, but he doesn't hold at the point of attack. So
he's not.
That doesn't necessarily work. Graham Glasgow is immobile, but he does hold up at the point of attack. So he's actually more useful for me on 9 out of 10 plays that aren't screens. But screen plays are set up, drop back, count 1, 2, 3, take off wide, except a middle screen, but take off wide, get to the flats. And by the time your offensive linemen are there, the defense has already sniffed that out. They are already there. And your running back is probably out farther ahead of him. It's taken him too long to get out wide. So you have to let your linemen get in position to run a screen play properly, and they're not mobile enough.
And the final bit I want to get to here on this one, screenplays. Your wide receivers have been whiffing on blocks. Cortland Sutton's supposed to be your physical guy on the boundary. I can think of 3 or 4 plays on screens where he just whiffed, which is unacceptable. And Jerry Jeudy, very good at getting open against man coverage. We've missed him sorely these last few games. Blocking is not his strength. With his little wiry frame, not the most physical player out there. I said it before. The wide receiver who I was most impressed with their blocking this season was little tiny KJ Hamler, which is not what you want to say. But he was getting out there and doing things. So you're also having issues blocking with Greg Dulcich. I don't know if you caught this last game. It was rough from Greg Dulcich in the blocking department.
I did, because we had talked about Nick. Yeah. Can he be effective as an offensive weapon? Yeah, as a receiver. I can teach a guy a route tree in a day and say, okay, forget all the jargon. They go through these long 14-word play calls, and just say, Russ, what's that mean for me? So, okay, that means your route tree is 7, 8, 9. Okay, on your option, if this happens, this happens. Okay, good. That takes 2 seconds. I go to the line. How he can then integrate into the line where you've got blocking assignments and recognition and all that type of stuff is a different animal altogether. Mm-hmm. And we've seen he's not ready for that. Can he be a weapon in the pass on offense for you? Yes, he can, because being a receiver and learning that and catching the ball is a lot easier than dropping down in line and doing all of the assignments that you need to and the teamwork that you need with the 5 guys next to you and the assignments. Assuming he's good enough as a blocker to begin with, which that's not why he was drafted.
Yep. I need my wide receivers to block and tight ends. Need to be physical out there to get teams, punish teams for being in light personnel. So that way they go to heavy personnel, and that's when you kill them. But appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for coming in. Scott and I both have the Broncos losing. I got a close one, though, 16-13. We'll see how it comes
down. Point of that. Yeah. It's 7. My initial reaction was 17-6.
Yeah. Yep. So close games. It'll be fun. And hey, you never know. You got a puncher's chance out there. Playing for pride at this point, and hopefully it's going to happen. So we appreciate you guys so much for coming in here. Make sure you follow Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you're following us on Twitter at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at Facebook at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share on YouTube. Click that bell icon on there so that way you know when we go live, you get those notifications. And we will be live again on Monday. It'll be a lot to talk about. Be really excited to see what happens this upcoming week. And I'm Broncos game, it's an appointment. Not an appointment. It's begrudgingly watching the Broncos somewhat at this point. I love them, but God bless. A lot of fun college football matchups this week. You got SEC championship game tomorrow. If you guys are curious about the 2024,
Saturday. There's no way the SEC's playing on a Friday.
Did I say SEC? I meant Pac-12.
Yeah.
Pac-12 Friday
SEC
night.
Don't do Fridays, man.
Nope. Pac-12 on Friday night. Excuse me. So you have a chance
for
to
those
see
other conferences that can play on Friday nights.
Friday night, getting one of them on Friday night is great. Excited about that.
They won't. High school football's too big down here. They won't do it to them.
Okay, that makes sense. Is it still going on in December? High school football?
Yeah.
Oh my
playoffs.
Gosh. Burr. But
It was only 31 this morning.
Oh, Burr. Yeah, no, you got Caleb Williams and USC versus Utah, which should be a great game. Kansas State versus TCU in the Big 12 championship. Purdue versus Michigan, which is probably the worst matchup. I think Michigan will probably roll them. LSU versus Georgia. And then ACC will be a lot of fun. You got, I think it's Clemson versus UNC again. I think, but you got a chance to see two of the quarterbacks that teams are pining themselves over. I give Dane Brugler a lot of credit for being, I think, one of the better in tune and analyst people in the drafts media right now. He writes The Beast, which is like a 700-page document for The Athletic, covering, I think, 500 players, more players than are even drafted in that document that he covers, which is insane. But he's saying that some teams are already thinking, you know what, this 2023 quarterback class is good. I want 2024 because they're talking about Drake May and Caleb Williams. Both those guys are playing next year, are going to be in the draft next year. So should be a very fun week of championship college football. Not to get too much in the draft talk.
And I'll probably be watching the U.S. playing in a World Cup elimination match on Saturday. Holland.
The Dutch. It's always the Dutch. Yeah, I'm probably going to go into work Saturday and pull up my TV screens and get some mundane work done. But appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Have a great weekend. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.